There is something sacred about a woman who knows who she is. There is something divine about a woman who refuses to betray herself in order to be loved, accepted, or understood. And yet, too often, we see precious women, queens, in the eyes of God, laying down their royalty on the altar of sacrifice. Not sacrifices unto God, but sacrifices unto fear, unto insecurity, unto false love. And those sacrifices, my sister, will break your soul. You were never created to shrink in order to fit. You were never designed to be empty so that others could feel full. You are a vessel of purpose, not a victim of pressure. The moment you start sacrificing your purpose just to be accepted is the moment you begin dying while you are still breathing. God didn't call you to be tolerated. He called you to be celebrated in the right environment. The purpose within you is too powerful to be buried under someone else's comfort. Your voice carries revelation. Your words were not meant to be muted. Don't silence your truth just to keep false peace. Peace that requires your silence is not peace. It's bondage. God gave you a voice not to argue, but to declare. Not to gossip, but to guide. Not to conform, but to correct and bring order where chaos has been allowed to dwell. Never sacrifice your worth to keep a relationship. The moment someone demands that you devalue yourself to keep them is the moment you need to walk away. You were bought with a price, divine blood. So why are you giving yourself away to someone who doesn't know your value? Any man who does not honor your identity is not aligned with your destiny. There are women who have dreams so big that hell itself trembles when they start to believe again. But too often, those dreams are traded for duty. Duty to family. Duty to tradition, duty to fear. But God never asked you to give up your future in the name of responsibility. You were created to build, not just to serve, to expand, not just to maintain. Don't bury your dream in the name of obligation. God placed that vision in your spirit for a reason. And hear me, beloved, never sacrifice your standards in the name of love. A man who asks you to compromise your holiness does not love your soul. He lusts after your body. There is a difference. What you compromise to get, you will eventually lose. And what you compromise yourself to keep will eventually destroy you. You do not need to become less righteous to be loved. You need to be more unapologetically whole. Your body is not a tool for validation. It is the temple of the Most High God. Don't give it away just to feel noticed. Don't expose it just to be admired. You are not designed to sell your sacredness for the currency of attention. Real love doesn't require nakedness. It requires your identity. And that identity is rooted in God, not in desire. And finally, time. Time is a divine seed. Every hour you give to toxic environments is a harvest you will not reap. Don't spend another year trying to fix what God has called you to release. Don't pour into a well that has run dry. Don't water ground that has no seed. The greatest theft in a woman's life is the theft of her time by people, by pain, by passivity. Guard it, protect it, invest it in purpose, not in problems. You are more than a helper. You are an answer. You are not weak. You are strategic. You are not emotional. You are sensitive to the Spirit. Don't sacrifice who God made you to be for a version of yourself someone else prefers. Heaven is watching. The earth is groaning. And the world is waiting for the rise of women who will not trade destiny for comfort, identity for love, or greatness for survival. You were born to reign, not just to remain. When a woman sacrifices her purpose for acceptance, she begins to abandon the very reason she was created. Purpose is not something we choose. It is something we were born with. It is God's original intent for our existence. When a woman lays down her divine assignment in exchange for approval from others, whether it's from a man, society, family, or even her community, she begins to live a lie. And any life lived outside of purpose will always result in frustration, confusion, and quiet resentment. The need for acceptance is a human desire, but it becomes dangerous when it overrides your assignment. To a woman who trades her calling for applause slowly loses herself. She starts to silence her dreams to avoid making others uncomfortable. She plays small to fit in rooms. She was anointed to lead. She becomes what people expect instead of who God intended. And this false version of herself might gain temporary approval, but it will cost her peace, fulfillment, and power. Acceptance that requires you to shrink is manipulation in disguise. If people only love you when you're quiet, passive, and compliant, they don't love you, they control you. Your purpose is not a suggestion, it is a divine mandate. When God created you, He deposited gifts, ideas, visions, and solutions inside of you. Those were never meant to be buried under someone else's opinions. You were not born to be liked. You were born to make impact. And that impact will often provoke criticism before it inspires admiration. But that's the price of purpose. Every time you deny your calling to be accepted, a part of you starts to die. That death is not visible on the outside, but your spirit feels it. Your joy decreases. Your energy fades. Your soul weeps. Because deep inside you know you were created for more. When a woman sacrifices her voice for the sake of peace, she doesn't find true peace. She finds silence just as survival. Your voice was given to you by God, not just to speak, but to declare truth, to confront darkness, to bring clarity, and to set boundaries that protect your soul. When you silence yourself in toxic environments, in broken relationships, or within families that thrive on dysfunction, you're not keeping the peace. You're preserving a lie. Peace that costs you your truth is not peace. It is quiet control. It's a counterfeit harmony that allows others to be comfortable while you carry the weight of unresolved tension. A woman who consistently holds back her voice begins to internalize pain. She becomes a container for conflict, swallowing her anger, suppressing her convictions, and smiling to cover her sorrow. But what is buried alive in silence does not die. It grows. And eventually that suppressed truth will leak out in exhaustion, anxiety, bitterness, or emotional numbness. God gave you a voice because He expects you to use it. Not in aggression, but in authority. Not to destroy, but to define what is acceptable and what is not. Your silence does not protect your peace. It postpones the storm, and that storm eventually returns, stronger than before. There is power in a woman who knows how to speak the truth in love, who can say, this is not okay without apology, who can confront injustice without fear of rejection. Your voice carries weight. Your words can shift atmospheres. Your truth can liberate not only you, but those watching you suffer in silence. Never trade your voice for temporary calm, because the peace you are trying to keep will become the prison you cannot escape. Speak, because your silence is too expensive. When a woman sacrifices her worth for the sake of a relationship, she trades her crown for chains. Worth is not something you earn. It is something you carry. It is the evidence of God's value stamped upon your soul. And yet too often, women diminish themselves to be chosen, to be kept, to be loved, even when that love comes with conditions that destroy their dignity. Any relationship that demands you to abandon your self-respect is not love. It is bondage. A woman who forgets her worth will tolerate mistreatment in the name of loyalty. She will stay in places where her spirit is shrinking just to avoid being alone. She will accept words that wound her and actions that break her, because she believes her presence in someone's life is more important than her peace. But you were not created to be a placeholder. You were not designed to compete for affection. You were born to be honored, not endured. The moment you begin negotiating your value to make someone else comfortable is the moment you betray the woman God called you to be. When you settle for relationships that devalue you, you are teaching your soul to live off crumbs when you are made for banquets. And it is not pride to walk away from dishonor. It is wisdom. It is not selfish to protect your worth. It is stewardship of your soul. You cannot heal a man by becoming less of a woman. You cannot fix broken love by breaking yourself. True love never requires you to disappear. It invites you to be seen, known, and respected. Stop lowering your price tag just to be sold. You are not a bargain. You are a masterpiece. And no relationship is worth the cost of your identity. When a woman sacrifices her dreams for duty, she begins to confuse service with surrender. There is a sacred place for duty in a woman's life. Duty to family, to children, to community, even to ministry. But when duty begins to silence desire, when responsibility drowns the sound of vision, a woman starts to live out of obligation instead of inspiration. She becomes efficient but not fulfilled, busy but not becoming, present but not alive. Dreams are not a distraction from duty. They are often the very reason for it. God never gave a woman vision so she could bury it under the weight of everyone else's needs. You can love your children and still pursue the calling in your heart. You can honor your spouse and still honor the gift inside you. You can serve your family without sacrificing the fire that God lit in your soul. The lie that you must choose one or the other is rooted in fear, not faith. When a woman constantly puts her dreams on the back burner, thinking she will return to them one day, she risks never returning at all. Time moves forward, and so do the demands. But the dream does not die. It just sleeps. And the longer it sleeps, the more difficult it becomes to awaken. She may look successful to the world, but inside, she feels like something is missing. That missing piece is purpose delayed by misplaced priorities. You are not being selfish when you pursue your dream. You are being obedient. Obedient to the assignment God gave you before anyone knew your name. Your dream is not a luxury. It is a seed of destiny. Don't let duty become the excuse for a buried life. You were not only created to support legacy, you were created to be one. When a woman sacrifices her standards for love, she begins to trade her divine identity for human approval. Standards are not walls to keep people out. They are boundaries to protect the sacred within. They are the reflection of your values, your convictions, your relationship with God. To lower them is to dilute the essence of who you are. And yet, in the pursuit of love, many women begin to compromise what once was non-negotiable. What was once, I will never accept this, becomes maybe just this once. And with every small compromise, a piece of her self-respect begins to erode. Love that demands you to betray your standards is not love, it is manipulation wearing a charming face. Real love will meet you at your level, not require you to descend to be noticed. A man who truly sees your worth will rise to meet your expectations, not convince you to abandon them. If he has to talk you out of your standards, it means he never intended to honor your soul, only to access your body, your time, or your energy. Your standards are not the problem. The wrong people are. The moment you start justifying red flags, accepting dishonor, or allowing inconsistency just to feel wanted, you are no longer protecting your heart. You are handing it over to be mishandled. And when your soul begins to settle for less than what it knows is right, the result is not love. It's regret. God didn't give you standards to make you hard to love. He gave you standards to filter who is worthy of access. The man who can't handle your standards is not strong enough to handle your purpose. You are not asking for too much. You are simply asking for what is holy. Don't let loneliness convince you to negotiate with what God told you to guard. When a woman sacrifices her body for validation, she is not offering love. She is seeking to fill a void that no human approval can satisfy. The body is sacred, designed by God as a temple, not a tool. It was never meant to be currency in the marketplace of attention, affection, or acceptance. But in a world that constantly measures a woman's worth by her appearance, shape, and sensuality, many are seduced into believing that exposure equals value and that desire equals love. But validation gained through the body is fleeting. It fades the moment attention shifts. It disappears as soon as the next attraction appears, and what's left is a woman who feels used, not valued, seen, but not truly known. Your body is not a billboard for approval. It is not a stage for performance. It is the housing of the divine, crafted by God to carry purpose, to birth life, to express strength, and to reflect His glory. When a woman begins to equate her worth with how many heads she can turn or how much she is desired, she becomes trapped in a cycle of temporary satisfaction and lasting emptiness. No amount of physical praise can heal a wounded soul. No amount of likes, stares, or seduction can replace the affirmation of being loved for who you are, not just how you look. There is nothing wrong with being beautiful, but when beauty becomes your identity, it becomes a prison. You are more than curves and skin. You are more than the sum of what others want from you. When you sacrifice your body to feel worthy, you lose the power of knowing that you were already worthy before anyone touched you, chose you, or praised you. Don't trade the eternal for the attention of the moment. What's sacred should never be sold for what's shallow. When a woman sacrifices her time for toxicity, she is not being loyal, she is being drained. Time is one of the most valuable gifts God has given you. Unlike money, it cannot be earned back. Once it is spent, it is gone. And yet many women continue to pour their hours, their years, their energy into relationships, environments, and cycles that only take, never give. They stay, hoping for change. They wait, praying for transformation. But while they're waiting, their purpose is waiting too, on hold, buried beneath emotional survival. Toxicity doesn't always show up as violence or chaos. Sometimes it's subtle. Disrespect disguised as humor, manipulation hidden as care, inconsistency painted as effort. But the fruit is always the same: confusion, exhaustion, emotional depletion. A woman who stays too long in toxic spaces begins to question her own clarity. She wonders if she's too sensitive, too demanding, too much. But the truth is, she's too valuable to keep wasting time where she's not growing. God did not call you to fix broken people at the expense of your future. You are not a rehab center for those who refuse to heal. You are not a dumping ground for emotional immaturity. You are the daughter of the King. Your time is sacred. Every moment you invest in dysfunction is a moment stolen from your destiny. There is a cost to staying where God already told you to leave. And that cost is not just time. It's your peace, your clarity, your joy. Sometimes walking away is not quitting, it's obedience. Letting go is not failure, it's freedom. The longer you stay in toxic soil, the harder it becomes to bloom. Don't give your years to what God has already labeled finished. Your time was meant to build legacy, not manage damage. Woman of purpose, hear this clearly. Your soul was never created to survive on sacrifice alone. It was designed to thrive in alignment with your divine assignment. Every time you trade your voice, your body, your standards, your dreams, or your time for something less than what God ordained, you are not being strong. You are slowly being stolen from. You are not here to be everything for everyone while becoming nothing for yourself. God didn't form you to be broken for love, to be silenced for peace, or to be emptied for acceptance. He created you in His image, full of wisdom, value, and power. And the moment you begin to honor what He placed in you more than what others expect from you, that's the moment you rise. You don't have to prove your worth. You are already worthy. You don't have to beg for love. You are already loved. And you don't have to keep bleeding for approval. You are already chosen. Stop sacrificing what makes you sacred. Protect your soul like the treasure it is. And if anything, anyone requires the depth of your purpose to stay, it's time to walk away. Because the woman who knows her value is the woman who changes the world.